Hi, I'm Daniel Lucas, and welcome to Book 101 Review. Book 101 is all about the books that I read for the last 40 years. And today I have my special guest. She's CEO at Diversity in Luxury, business coach, keynote speaker, podcaster, and best-selling author too, no other than Miss Elizabeth Solaro. Welcome to Book on One, Miss Elizabeth, and can you please introduce yourself?
Hi everyone, thank you for having me on your show. I'm Elizabeth Solaro. I am based in London and I run a couple of businesses. The first is the Luxury Business Emporium, and I'm also the CEO and founder of Diversity in Luxury Awards.
Congratulations to your achievement, Miss Elizabeth, and thank you for sharing your talents to the world. So, what defines a luxury brand in today's market?
Oh, that's a fantastic question. Luxury brands are defined by many things. However, it really depends on the beholder. So it depends on, in my opinion, the client. So for some clients, it could be exclusivity. For some clients, it could be something that's rare. For some clients, it could be something that's very expensive. And for some clients, it could be something fresh and new. And that is some of the things that I cover in my new book, The Luxpreneur.
Wow! Thank you for this coming book. Is this your debut book, or second or third?
This is actually my second book because my first book was, it was a book about cakes, artisanal cakes. That was, in a way, how I became famous. I started, I left a career in the city. I used to be a headhunter. Prior to that, I was a scientist. So I left all that behind. I became a cake maker and I started making cakes for the rich and famous and for royalty. And that was how I got introduced into the luxury world. So this second book that I've written called The Luxpreneur is all about the luxury industry. So it's how to set up a luxury brand. Because when I read so many luxury books, I noticed that most of them were written by very wise, very experienced professors of luxury. It was the books tended to be very academic, but there weren't basic, easily understood books that really broke down luxury. And more importantly, in many of the books that I read, they didn't really break down the different types of luxury client, and also the different types of luxury businesses, because again, people who are not in that world, there's an intimidation or a fear that, oh, this is luxury. But I felt that there was a gap in the market for a book that explained all these concepts, and therefore you can identify where you fit, either as a luxury brand owner or even as a luxury buyer. And here we are.
And here we are, and I want all my podcasts to belong to be the luxury products, a luxury podcast. So, what are the key elements that distinguish a luxury brand from a premium brand?
That's a fantastic question. And again, I cover that in the book. So there are several types of luxury brands, and you can go from what I call masstige. So that is, it's still for the masses, but it's slightly more expensive. Then you've got premium, then you've got ultra luxury, then you've got what some people even call super luxury. So I break them all down. I think there are about 5 different categories of luxury brands. And with regards to a premium brands, high quality, not easily attainable. but attainable enough. So if I saved up some money, for example, if I saved up and saved and saved up, I could probably fly business class, for example, but I may not be able to afford a private jet. No matter how much I save up. So I think for me, that's how I explain some of these concepts in the book. I also use celebrity archetypes, for example, to try and explain these concepts. So if I talk about the difference between, say, I don't know, say Beyonce and Taylor Swift, if I use that as examples, people easily understand. So that's what I try to do in the book.
Wow. How important is brand heritage in establishing a luxury brand?
Another fantastic question. I love this. I really, really love this. Now, here's the thing. Heritage brands, I always say to people, they started as a one-man band. I don't care who they are, from Chanel to Hermes. The brand stories are about one founder who decided to do things differently. And then after so many years, 100, 200 years, they become a heritage brand. Some achieve that in 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, but it takes time to become what they call a heritage brand. And that you have time, you also have longevity. And time is different to longevity, because with longevity, it's time plus relevance. Because if you, no matter how long you've been around, if you're no longer relevant, you will not have a business. People will not buy from you. So that heritage, and part of that heritage is the storytelling, the folklore, the artisanal bits. You know, we source our leather from XYZ. We source our water from blah, blah, blah. The thread in our clothes, we source, but so it's things like that contribute to the heritage of the brand, and that what makes it very, very important in the eyes of the client. So because I always go back to seeing your brand through the eyes of your client, and with a luxury brand or with a heritage brand, you will have a particular client type. And with that client type, there are certain bits about your heritage that they absolutely resonate with and love and want to associate with. So that, in my mind, defines a heritage brand. Can other brands become heritage brands? Absolutely. But like I said, it takes time and it takes longevity and keeping being relevant.
Very well said, Miss Elizabeth. Because of that, you have a big, big hand. So, what role does exclusivity play in the perception of luxury brand?
Oh, huge, 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 huge. Exclusivity is one of the pillars, in my mind, of creating luxury products, or even trying to up your game. Because my book is also for people who want to, say they want to get into the luxury industry, or they want to level up their game. Now, exclusivity is absolutely vital. But I always say to my clients or people that I coach, I always say this to them. If you were strictly exclusive, your price tag will be absolutely huge. Your price tag will be enormous. And there might only be maybe 10, 100 people in the world that can afford your products because you're uber exclusive. But let's learn lessons from brands that are also uber exclusive, but they manage to survive financially, because at the end of the day, we're a business and it's all about cash flow. So exclusivity is amazing. And there are ways in which you can roll that out. So to give an example, if I take a well-known brand like Dior, for example, and I see Dior on several levels. So you have haute couture. So that's exclusive, done for you, will probably cost you £100,000. And then at the other end, you have your lipsticks, your perfumes, things that people like me can easily save up for. and buy. It's still exclusive, but there's a hierarchy of exclusivity. And this is where very successful luxury brands, this is where they get it right. Because certain things are super, super exclusive, and the price and time and the artistry will keep people like me, will gatekeep people like me out of it. So I can't afford haute couture. I just can't. However, I can go and pick up a lipstick and they can say, actually, we created a new range of lipsticks. It could be something like there's only 2 shades and we only create 1,000. And once they're gone, they're gone. Again, that is another level of exclusivity. So those are some of the things that even as a normal business or a luxury brand, we can actually borrow from them and copy, if that makes sense. So exclusivity is absolutely important in the establishment of a luxury brand, but it's the way you play on that exclusivity as a small business. That is what you need to be aware of, because many of us don't have the money or the budget as a brand like Dior.
Yes, makes sense. So, how can storytelling enhance the appeal of a luxury brand?
Again, another amazing question. And in fact, in some of the introductory pages of my book, I talk about the importance of stories. So many storytelling is an art form, is not something that is easily taught or that we're really taught in school. I know we're told to write essays, but we're not really taught the art of storytelling. And some people have a natural propensity for telling stories. So in the book, I try to use an example of how to do that practically, because you can use storytelling to invoke what I call extreme emotion. Because usually with luxury items, they move you from, I can't afford this, to what do I have to do to get my hands on this? Which is completely, so you're starting from, oh my God, I can't afford haute couture. And then you see the dress and you think, right, that's it. I don't care what I have to do. I've got to have it. So it's that emotion that you want to invoke when you tell the story of your brand. So I use the example of Coco Chanel. So Coco Chanel, I think, lost her mother, grew up in an orphanage. She was taught to sew, and she created Chanel.
Yes.
That's a story, right? But if I were to use the art of storytelling, I will set the scene. I will talk about all the things she had to go through. I will talk about the streets of Paris. I will talk about one stormy night, her father took her to the orphanage with tears in his eyes. He said, please educate my child. The nuns took pity on her. They taught her how to sew. They couldn't afford any fabric, so they had to use. So do you see where I'm going with this? So, again, with storytelling, there are several types. With that, I'm kind of using the hero's journey methodology of telling her story. So rags to riches, etc., etc. So that is the art of storytelling, and that's often missing for many brands, in my opinion, because many brands they just tell a straightforward story. We were established in 18 something, and we have been making bags for 150 years. And I'm thinking, so what?
Yeah.
However, storytelling doesn't just have to be via text. It can be visual as well. So you can use video to tell a story. You can use images, great photography to tell a story. I remember there was a shoe brand about 25 years ago. One of the first luxury websites that I ever saw that resonated with me. It was an Italian shoe brand. I think it was Bruno Magli. I think, excuse the pronunciation. And what they did was that they took a pair of shoes and they pulled the shoes apart. So all the leather pieces with the thread, with the needle, beautifully photographed. And you had this reel that showed you pieces of leather up until the finished product. And that kind of storytelling, I still remember 25 years later. So that's my point. So storytelling is so, so crucial when it comes to luxury brands. And what sometimes we don't understand is that these luxury brands, they've spent millions
Yes.
telling their stories.
That's true, Miss Elizabeth. But before we go on, I want to shout out my ranking tops for the last 30 days because in Mexico, I got 41 audience share. I got 41 on the Apple chart, I just said. New Zealand at 81, Thailand, Tanzania, Moldova, United Kingdom, Egypt, Poland, and Norway. Thank you so much for supporting this podcast because this podcast is created to empower writers, authors all over the world, like Miss Elizabeth Solaru. What are the essential characteristics of luxury brand positioning?
That is another excellent question. So in positioning, you need to know exactly where you fit, where you stand. And this is sometimes a bit tricky because if you excuse me, if you've got many products, not all your products are going to fit in certain categories. So for example, I give an example of Dior, the haute couture, that would be ultra luxury, ultra high. And then your lipsticks, your perfumes, etc., they could be masstige. But if you are a small business, you need to think, okay, I'm a small business. Do I want to serve the ultra high end, or do I want to do the masstige, the premium, or just the high end? So you need to think about, where do I position myself? Because the different luxury client types are going to buy different. They're going to buy different items. So to give you an example, and this is a recent one, a brand like Loro Piana, synonymous with quiet luxury, and it kind of came to focus because of the program Succession. So they dressed all the characters, etc., etc., etc. Now, Loro Piana, based off the success of that, they actually did a collaboration with an influencer on TikTok. Now, that would have shocked a lot of people because when you think luxury, you don't think TikTok for
Yes.
many people. But I often say to my clients, believe it or not, the coolest, most successful luxury brands are actually on TikTok. But it's the way they use the platform. So the collaboration that Loro Piana did with this influencer, it was phenomenally successful. They created it because it was a complete collaboration. It wasn't just the person modeling a few clothes or shoes or whatever. They created a whole range of items around this influencer, and many of the items sold out in hours on the TikTok platform. So my point is, luxury is still, the essence of luxury is the same, but how it's perceived and how it's used is changing and will continue to change. So I think, in my opinion, that for me is how brands can try to position themselves.
Yes, indeed. So, do you think your cakes will be available on TikTok? They're fabulous. Oh my goodness, magnificent cakes, people. So, how can a luxury brand maintain its exclusivity while expanding its customer base?
Ooh, now that is another tricky one, because again, you don't want to go into the mass market, but at the same time, so it's always been, I call it the, like a pendulum, up a bit, down a bit, up a bit. So there's got to be a bit of balance. For me, this is what I think. Luxury brand, your core product, whatever it is you're famous for, make that exclusive, maintain the exclusivity for your core products. So, for example, Hermes handbags, for example, that particular the Birkin, people are crazy about it. They've got waiting lists and they maintain that exclusivity. However, you can then play around with a couple of other products that you have. So, for example, Hermes, people may not know this, but they were actually famous for scarves before they were famous for handbags. So the late Queen, Queen Elizabeth, she was one of their biggest customers when it came to the scarves. So if I were Hermes, for example, I will play around with the scarves and I will play around with one or two other items. So a couple of years ago, they brought out this fabulous range of nail polish. Again, that will attract more clients for that particular item or product and purpose. So clients feel they own a tiny bit of Hermes. However, the exclusive products, the handbags, they need to really, really, really protect and gatekeep those for as long as they possibly can. So that for me would be a way for a brand to manage that balance.
Yes, balance it, people. And because of that, Miss Elizabeth, very well said. Very well said. And how important is product quality in building a luxury brand?
Oh, product quality is everything. Product quality is everything. When I'm coaching some of the businesses that I do, I say to them, don't even bother coming into the luxury sector if you don't have a good product. Here's the irony. It doesn't have to be the best product, because some people think, oh my God, I've got to put everything into it. It's got to be the best. No, it might be slightly controversial, but it's got to be a good product. When it's a good product, you've got something, you've got a nice base that you can build off. So product quality is everything. It's got to be able to do what it says on the tin, plus a little bit more. However, what you then build around your product is the brand, the story, if you have to create a waiting list, create a waiting list. Find something that is exclusive to you, something that you do best. So for example, I use myself as an example. When I started my cake company, anyone can bake, anybody can bake. As long as you have an oven, as long as you can follow a recipe, anyone can bake. But you need to have your added value as a cake maker. So what was my added value? My added value in those days, many years ago, was doing cakes that many people didn't want to do. So I took risks. I did shapes. I explored a lot. I traveled outside of the UK. I went to learn certain techniques in America. I followed certain cake makers. Even when it came to vanilla, for example, the best vanilla comes from Mexico. Many people don't know that. Sourcing ingredients from around the world. So doing things like that is my added value. So when I'm in front of a client, as I was a couple of days ago, because I was flown out to Paris to do a tasting, and I was able to say to the client, the peaches in this cake comes from blah, the champagne comes from this region. It's storytelling like that that gives you the added value when it comes to your brand. So product quality, you cannot joke with it. It's absolutely important.
Number one ingredients.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Al Hassan, for watching us. Thank you so much. So what strategies can be employed to create a strong brand identity for a luxury brand?
That's a really, really good one. So again, I discussed some of it in the book. So identity. So think about, okay, good. Let's do something a bit different. Tell me your favorite luxury brand. So just tell me, and we'll go through how they, in my opinion, what makes for a strong brand identity with them. So, and that way people could probably learn from that. So tell me your favorite brand.
My favorite brand, Tesla.
Sorry, Tesla. Excellent, 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 excellent. So we have a very strong founder who is a personality, controversial. Some people love him, some people hate him.
Controversial, yeah.
But it doesn't matter. Funnily enough, the more controversial, the better. because we tend to remember people that stand out than people that blend in the background. So there's that personal identity as well. He also, but in my opinion, for example, I actually put him, because in the book, I actually mention him in the book. I put him as, for me anyway, he's a slash between a visionary stroke an icon, if that makes sense. Some people is an icon, some people is a visionary, some people is a controversy, but that doesn't matter. What matters is establishing that brand identity. When you look at his background, he is someone who invests a lot in different things. So if something is going to be successful, I don't know, PayPal, Uber, etc., he somehow will invest in that and he will be successful. So he has a track record of success. So that track record of success has followed him into Tesla. He wasn't the founder of Tesla. From what I understand, I believe he bought Tesla, and he is one of these people that's very open to ideas, because he said the Tesla car, for example, not the car, was it the truck? Sorry, the Tesla truck. I think his son or somebody, one of his kids turned to him and said, why can't we build a truck that looks like the future? And he thought, so this is why I classify him as a visionary. So in building your luxury brand identity, you need to know who you are, where you stand, if that makes sense. So I discuss the different archetypes. So for me, for example, my archetype is artisan, craftsman, because I love making cakes. The passion is there. But somebody like Elon Musk, who's a visionary, he is not as if he enjoys making cars or anything like that. But he's a visionary. He knows where the future is going. He was talking about AI way before many people were talking about AI. So again, it's about you. In order to build that strong brand identity, you need to know your own archetype. Are you a salesman? Are you a networker? Are you a craftsman? Are you a visionary? I think I talk about 9 different types that I have found, the different types of archetypes of luxury brand owners in luxury. So again, it's about you knowing who you are and what you stand for. And that's the way you will then build a following, a community that would rally around you. So somebody like Elon Musk, for example, I even talk about the type of people he needs around him. Because when you are a visionary, you need people that will ground you, because you're seeing the future and you need to bring people with you. And the people in your team are going, slow down. You know, we're not quite seeing what you're seeing, but we will follow you because we believe in you. So that, in my opinion, is what you need to do in order to build a luxury brand.
Yes, indeed. Speaking of Elon Musk and Miss Chanel, Coco Chanel, please do read or listen to the biography, Elon Musk by Walter Isaacson. One of a kind. So, Miss Elizabeth, what role does customer experience play in the success of a luxury brand?
Customer experience is everything. The customer, I use the saying in my book, the customer is king, but the luxury brand is a kingmaker, because behind every king is a kingmaker. So the relationship should be symbiotic, and people will, if they have a brilliant experience with you, they would maybe tell 1 or 2 people. If they had a bad experience with you, they'll probably tell 10 people. And sometimes it's not whether things go bad or things go wrong, it's how you fix it. And it's also the language that you use in a customer experience. So there's a language of luxury that I firmly believe that sometimes I think some organizations have lost the art of the language of luxury. Some places still do it really, really well. To give an example, I was in Paris this weekend, came back yesterday, and unfortunately, because of the Olympics, everywhere, all the roads in central Paris closed. And all you see is closed. Literally, no traffic, no cars, nothing. And all you can see are the gendarmes, the policemen with the guns, really big ones and little ones. I come from the UK where, at the sight of the gun, I nearly fainted. And then you have to show they give you a QR code. You have to show your passport. You have to show a letter from the hotel. And the hotel, literally in front of the hotel, the Olympic thing was being built on the Place de la Concorde. So what did the hotel do? I love what they did. They know it's an inconvenience. They know people can't come in through the normal route. So they literally sent somebody down with a trolley down to the side road where I was parked to come and get all my stuff.
Oh, wow.
And and they brought water, they brought towel, and they were like, so my point of view, obviously things are going wrong, but it was the way it was handled. So the customer experience for me, when it comes to luxury, is paramount. And I say to people, it doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be as frictionless as possible. So, and you need to think, okay, if people go on my website, is it going to load in 3 seconds? Are people going to find the information that they want really, really quickly? Do I make it easy for them to buy? So you need to think of your website as, when you're looking at your website, don't just think, oh my God, it's a beautiful website, and the web designer is going to tell you they did an amazing job. You need to look at it from the perspective of your client. You need to think, okay, if I was Elon Musk, or if I'm Beyonce and I want to buy a cake from me, have I made it easy for them? And sometimes some of my best clients, they literally WhatsApp me one sentence and say, I'm going to be in London, XYZ. Can you make a cake? Literally just that. And what I then do is I would just say to them, tell me who, yes, I'm available, but tell me who to speak to in terms of delivery and details. So they'll give me the number of an assistant so I can bother them with all the details. So for me, that friction eliminates as much friction as you can.
Yes.
All they want to know is they're in town, they want a cake appeared. They don't want to know, oh my God, I can't even deliver to the hotel because it's been closed. And I have to walk the whole, that's my opinion.
Oh, well, very well said, Miss Elizabeth. I have fun talking to you. I hate to let you go, but can you come back next week and let's continue our discussion about luxury brand and let's promote your cakes and books. So, Miss Elizabeth, can you please invite our listeners to support your books and, of course, your fabulous cakes?
Yes, I would absolutely. On Amazon, there's going to be now to me.
Yes, people, let's support Miss Elizabeth Solaro because if you support her, more empowering books, more empowering cakes to come. So, Miss Elizabeth, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
More to come, people. See you soon. Miss